sector, they don't really look at the problems from a development mindset. Okay? Sure, they love their students. However, beyond expressing your love to your students, loving your students committed to their learning, you also have to understand the system with which we all operate. And by connecting your understanding of the system to a national development agenda is an important aspect of having that development mindset. So, it is easy to say that education has a role in development, but without understanding development itself as a concept, then it becomes hollow to say that education has a role in development. So you have to understand these two concepts together. In this day and age where change is happening at a dizzying pace, we cannot anymore educate the citizens, or we cannot anymore educate the population by just identifying these are the things they need to know. Somehow, we are already in the era where people have to, in a way, have the capacity to pursue how they will live their life. It is not just becoming workers, but also becoming creators, being innovators, being because to say that we prepare them to be workers in the economy, that is also very limiting in this day and age. Because in ASEAN, we need to deal with terrorism, we need to deal with Islamophobia, with homophobia, with a lot of things. So development or education for development does not only mean equipping them with the skills for them to be workers in the knowledge economy or into the national economy, but also the skills to be responsible and functioning citizens, addressing a lot of the social issues that confront them in their daily life. So the kind of education that we need for development to happen is something that is beyond economic. It is also about understanding each other, promoting peace, promoting multicultural understanding. So these are the challenges to teacher educators, because now we need to think beyond the school. We also have to include those outside of the school also as partners in education for development. So that's my take on question number 1.
Mine is on question number 1 again, how educational interventions solve social economic issues. In Singapore, just a bit on what Cambodia has said, for the longest time we have left early childhood education aside because the government wanted to focus on the secondary, primary and tertiary education first. So once that has been accomplished, right now our government is focusing on the kindergartens and then later on earlier childcare. What we found out is that some of the poorest people in Singapore can't afford to send their children to kindergartens, and as a result, when they enter primary school, they are lagging behind, and they will continue to lag behind. So to solve this problem, the government has set up more government kindergarten at a very cheap price, so as to encourage more and more parents to come to send their children to the kindergarten schools. And these kindergartens are now attached to, they are just next to the school itself, the primary school, so that there's a connection. After kindergarten, they can just go to the primary school. And I think so far it is working very well. And this is how we try to help to improve the social economic status of the people.
Good morning, everyone. Yeah. When I looked at 7 questions, I thought, oh, it's the biggest question. It's difficult to answer all of them. So I just only concentrate on question 7. Yes. I think that about transfer credits. Is a change today between the university and college in the world. So, if is a science or math is a common subject in each country. So, that subject needs student needs mass demand from the each one. So we need to have a common curriculum for each one. So if we can do that, it's very good. When students want to transfer from the university or college in the Asian. So the first thing we should have a research cooperation between that. But it's difficult if we to solve that and get the objective. I think it's better if we give a common objective or common goal. From that, we cooperate to set the idea and suggest some topic to research about that. To have a common criterion, to have the same idea to transfer students between the university or between the college, like Euro credits. Yeah, I think it's better. Yeah, it's my idea. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think my impression from hearing all of your reflections is that like countries in ASEAN, we are at different stages of development, and even though we are at different stages of development, we have some kind of like common things that we can share, and also like in Thailand, we are becoming an aged society. We are not going to have that many students coming into the system anymore. So that is a very critical issue, because like we have to go beyond just the skills base, but we try to achieve the innovation and the creativity and the value-based society and the economy. So as like Dr. Savana mentioned, that Thailand is aiming to become an upper income country. But I think that is also remain a challenge, and I think in ASEAN we have countries that I think we all have something to contribute. It doesn't matter which stage of development you are at, but we have something that we can contribute as a whole. And I think like what Dr. Toy mentioned, I think is very important, because through research cooperation, we can develop something that can be, that can be implemented in other contexts. Okay, so I think like for the linkages in terms of research linkages between among ASEAN nations is also very important, because otherwise, education. We all know that education has a very pivotal role in national development, but without like the appropriate mechanism, it could bring the nation into like the direction that could not achieve the goals of the national development. Okay, so I think like, is there any other issues that you would like to address?
Regarding the part on the research collaboration, I attended quite a number of sessions presented by the Filipinos counterparts, and they shared their collaborations with the different countries in Singapore regarding the teaching of the science and mathematics. So I think it's happening, and that the Philippines are doing a good job.
When ASTEN was
Hello.
when ASTEN was established in 2014, we did this planning for the next 3 or 4 years, if you recall. I think we've had enough experience to go by and start to review our strategic plan. So my suggestion to ASTEN member universities is to conduct a review of the plans that the member universities set for themselves in 2014, and perhaps do a strategic planning with such experience as platform for the review of the strategic plan that was set in 2014, so that we can incorporate into the strategic plan credit transfer and research collaboration, and we can be more systematic and more strategic in the way we approach this challenge of really promoting teacher education in ASEAN.
So I agree that we really need some kind of like concrete strategic planning in order to promote, in order to promote the education in ASEAN. Okay. So like even though we have like 7 questions or topics from the concurrent sessions, but I think like this session we can move on to focus on the topic of discussion that could be like the key issue of this conference, which is on the teaching competency of ASEAN teacher education. And like Dr. John Hope has mentioned about like the future competencies of teachers, even though he did not provide the whole list of teaching competencies, but I think he gave us a very like enlightened framework on what should be considered. And then after Dr. John Hope, it was the country presentations to give us some ideas about what's going on in each country. So this question would be for every one of you to reflect upon what would be the key challenges of ASEAN future teaching competencies in your view.
I think before we start, perhaps we might want to state the goals. What's the purpose of having a common one?
Okay, yeah, so we can move on to the second question first, okay? Like, should there be a common teaching competencies in ASEAN? Okay, in your view. And we can also like open that to the floor at the end, okay? So any one of you? Any one of you would like to reflect upon whether like we should have a common teaching competency in ASEAN? Because as the ASTEN, we are trying to push forward the common teaching competency in ASEAN. So we would like to get your views on whether or not you think it would be appropriate to have some common teaching competency in ASEAN. Any one of you on the floor would like to reflect upon this question? Okay, microphone please.
Thank you very much. I am Hasanuddin from State University of Gorontalo, Indonesia. Teacher competency, especially in Indonesia, all the teachers in Indonesia, for example, has to be take more than 4 years for teacher education. And the next step we have to do like PPG Indonesia or teacher certification. And then after that we ask them to practice more than 1 year in the school area in far from the central city, for example. And that what competency that we have. For example, in Indonesia, the first one, we have a pedagogic competence like in ASEAN country, I think. And the second one, we have a professional competence that we know about the content and also how to teach the content. And then this is important to ask that how to develop a competency of the teacher in ASEAN country that we have the same concept or idea related to have a good teacher certification, that we can and have agreement between the ASEAN country facilitated by the ASTEN association. I think today we have to move in order to develop our competency, like that we have already discussed at the first day from a New Zealand speaker. I think is the best to adopt in order to develop our competency in teacher education. So could you please to give us some point related to how to develop our certification in teacher education in Southeast Asian country? Is important to us. I think competency for the teacher all over the country is the same, and then we accepted how to maintain the quality of education in ASEAN countries is important to us. So accreditation in order to certify our teacher, and then all of the teacher in ASEAN country, for example, can teach in ASEAN country. For example, you can send your teacher to Indonesia, and maybe Indonesia can send the teachers to Philippines or some other country in ASEAN country, because they have the same competency and assessment in order to develop their quality of teacher education in ASEAN country. This is my idea related to this teacher competency needed in order to develop the quality of education in ASEAN country. Thank you.
Like for your question, so you believe that there should be a common framework for teaching competency in ASEAN, and there should be like some kind of accreditation framework for the license of the teachers in ASEAN? Is that what you?
Yeah. This is sometime last week we have discussed with the Minister of Higher Education in Indonesia that competency that we need is related to the pedagogic and practical, and also the content can work together in order to develop our teacher education in ASEAN country, for example.
So we have same
Any one of you would like to reflect upon this first?
The question really is there a need for it? And our response will depend on our country's view of what ASEAN really is. I agree with the former Prime Minister when he said that the success of ASEAN will depend on the strength of our sense of belongingness as a people. And we really have to reflect on that. Do we really feel that we really belong to this region, and that we are willing to share ourselves with people beyond our borders within the region? Do we really feel that we are ASEAN? Because if that is so, then schools and universities have critical role to play to spread the seed of ASEAN in the region. Sad to say, our history would bear us that we would bear witness to education being used by the colonizers to colonize us. That's except for Thailand, you know, you have that honor of not having been colonized by any European power. But the rest of countries in ASEAN, the school system was used to colonize us. But it need not remain that way. We can use the very system to bring about or recover our ASEAN identity. we have been divided for years by colonizers. We have a shared history. Malaysia, Indonesia, the Philippines, Brunei, we have a shared history. I think the Philippines, the long-lost brothers and sisters of the Malay language, Bahasa language, we are the only country in Southeast Asia that do not speak. We are the only country that does not speak Malay. Imagine that. But we do share the same history with Majapahit Empire. If you say in other words, in our past, we were one. We were one. We have a shared identity. So it's a matter of recovering them and building on whatever has been left. So to answer the question whether there is a need for an ASEAN teacher competency, a common reference framework, my answer, because I believe that we should be ASEAN, then my answer is yes. However, the law of supply and demand will surely play. Unlike in architecture or engineering perhaps, the private sector needs to have a supply of engineers and architects that have the same standard for the business to grow. But the teacher sector is different because our role is not only for the economy, but it is more about building and strengthening the soul of the nation. So our job is beyond producing workers. Our job is to develop the citizens of the present and of the future. So, in fact, I was this morning I was discussing with my president, because from our point of view at Philippine Normal University, we're funded by the government. We don't want our graduates to just be employed somewhere outside of the country, because there is a need in the Philippines for very good teachers, and we produce the best teachers. If the law of supply and demand will operate, our graduates will leave the country and be employed somewhere else. So, to my president, that's a big problem. To me, it's also a problem, but to be able to get past that, and I think it is inevitable that ASEAN will need good teachers, then now, well, that is not yet happening in full scale. My university can prepare for that so that the possible negative impact of that will already be addressed this early. So yes, we need to at least discuss a common framework for ASEAN to succeed, because the teachers with an ASEAN perspective will have to be in every school in this region to bring about that ASEAN identity and shared community that we wish ASEAN to achieve in sooner than later, I hope.
Actually, now I know that female organization is Southeast Asian Minister of Education already gave a teaching competency already that for 10 countries. So I think that's information we should consider about that. Yeah, because they already gave a teaching competency standard.
Yeah, because like the senior has already developed the ASEAN teaching competency framework, and it's available online, okay, and we can use that as a reference. But I think like for the purpose of like for the Indonesia, because you mentioned about like kind of like how can I say, teacher from one country can teach in another country. That's for the purpose of having the license, right? The teaching license, right? Okay. But that could also like have some kind of like implication on the demand and supply as well. Because I understand even in Thailand we have a lot of teachers from Philippines, coming to teach in our country because of the English capacity. We need teachers who can have English proficiency and teach that to our students, which we don't have that many teachers with that kind of ability in our country. Okay, but at the moment in Thailand, what we do is that teachers from other countries can also come to teach in our country, even though they don't have the license. But they would have to come. They would have to go through like the Ministry of Education, in order to get it's not going to be the same license as Thai teachers, but you would get a permit, of teaching in Thailand. Okay, so that is already available in our system as well. Okay. So anyone would like to, besides Indonesia, any one of you here would like to reflect upon whether we really need to have like the common teaching competency frameworks? Is there any other comments? Okay, Dr. Ho?
Thank you. I've been listening to the conference and I've been thinking a lot about that question. Because it's a really important question, and I'm very glad Vietnam brought up the CIMO one.
Yeah.
I've seen that. You may also see there is a UNESCO one for the future, and UNESCO one for ICT. I was called to China recently for an APEC meeting, and they were set up competencies. During this conference, we have all heard about your own lives. You all have competencies in your own country, and I would like you to just consider those competencies. They're actually not just yours. They have to be approved by your government, by the ministry, and we all know that they're very top down and they like to have their say. So no matter what we say here, we have to think about whether it is implemented. Another thing, when I was doing some research about this conference and looking at competencies, is it's very difficult to find any evaluation of whether they do anything. Very, very difficult to find that. Even within individual countries, there is very rarely a system set up to see whether they're being implemented or not. And having seen teachers teaching in some of the countries that we're talking about here, I know that they're not implemented. They are visionary, and we should have visionary things. But I think that we have another role in ASEAN, and I would just like to suggest we think about this. Because I think that there is a place for ASTEN. There is a place for ASTEN because of the importance of teacher education that goes beyond UNESCO, that goes beyond all the other ones. You're quite right, there is a commonality across countries, but migration is changing that. So migration, I think Philippines are about the third biggest migrants to New Zealand at the moment. So that's an issue. And I think that there should be something that we can do that covers all those possibilities, like shared ways of evaluating teaching and so on. I wonder if we should be looking at the idea of principles, some principles that ASEAN stands for that cover these sorts of things, such as regional cooperation, such as social justice, such as implementing teacher competencies for the future rather than just for the present or the past, rather than moving beyond colonisation and so on. I wonder if we had some general principles that were ASTENs that could be adopted, that could be taken by individual countries when they're developing their own competencies, because you're all going to continue to do that. So I wonder if we could maybe, taking a little bit from what the Philippines have said, looking at some of these wider issues, whether they could be converted into, rather than competencies which are, these are what we must do, principles or something that in its concept about what the do should be developed from. I think there would be more likely to be agreement about that from all countries and all governments than there would be about very specific sets of competencies which actually have been proven not to work very well. So that's just a thought from me from the outside. Thank you.
Yes, in fact, like a report by CIMO, I believe it came out like in 2009. So now it has been almost 10 years already. And I mean, I'm kind of wondering, just like Professor Ho was mentioning about like, in terms of the implementation, to what extent have you implemented the principles or the frameworks of the teaching competencies that was developed by the CMO? You know, like, I mean, is there anyone would like to reflect upon whether these principles have been adopted into the system of the country?
There's a meeting in August, and my colleague is going, so maybe I'll ask my colleague to ask them.
Okay, I want to reflect a little bit on that one. Of course, like the counterpart from Vietnam said that EDU-KU produce the standard for teacher competency, for teaching competency. But if you look at those competencies, it's very general. For professional knowledge, they said that teacher competency standard, the first one is professional knowledge. So how can we integrate professional knowledge into the real practice? So our ASTEN, should we create a minimum standard for the professional knowledge or not? This is the question. If we set up the minimum standard of professional knowledge that can apply for all Asian countries, so how can we do it? Because we are in diversity of the, how can I say, also the background. For Cambodia, Laos and Vietnam is the low middle income country, Thailand, Philippines, Indonesia, middle income country, and Singapore also developing country, something like that. So how can we compromise this diversity into one common? So this is a very important thing that we should consider. And also in the teaching competency standard of EDU-KU, they say that professional skill as well. The teacher must be competent in professional skill. So what is the minimum standard of professional skill that we should comply with all of Asian countries? So we should thinking about that one. And I think from the floor you can give some suggestions as well about this.
Anyone from the floor would like to give some kind of suggestions on what Dr. Savannah has mentioned about like the standard for professional knowledge, you know, that should be, you know, at least, you know, common in this region. Any question or reflections?
I think it depends on the needs of the country. So in the case of Singapore, we do employ, we actually employ, not just exchange. If you're talking about exchange of teachers for a short stint, then that would be quite difficult in Singapore. But if you, now I'm coaching, if you are, we do accept teachers from other countries to come to Singapore to teach. For example, the languages. So like we're lacking in Chinese teachers, so that people who can teach Chinese can come. We accept quite a number of Malaysian teachers as well. And then we are in need of music, art, all the specialized areas. So I suppose if people from ASEAN, teachers from ASEAN who have these qualities, and they can come to Singapore through the Ministry of Education.
And do they have to comply with the, you know, the license or the standard of teaching in Singapore?
I think as long as you have a degree in the teaching of teacher education, teaching, right? Then the Ministry of Education will then look at it. Not so much on the teacher competencies.
So is it possible within the ASTEN country can be set the formula of training? Because according to my understanding, also the formula of training for teacher also different from country to countries. Can be 12+4, every country can be applied for 12+4 or not, and be set in our ASTEN standard. Something like this can be possible or something like that. So this is we should consider as well.
So like Dr. Savannah is suggesting that instead of like focusing on the list of teaching competencies in ASEAN, we can look at it in another way of approaching toward the formula of the training program, teacher training programs in ASEAN, right? Is that right? So anyone from the floor would like to reflect upon that? Would that be of your interest as well? Let's say we are going to develop some kind of like formula of teacher training in ASEAN. I think that could be like an option that we can explore, because it would be more flexible, and like each country can, because sometimes like teaching competency is kind of very rigid. It's too rigid if you are going to come up with all the list of the teaching competencies, okay? But if you based on the principles and the shared common values of ASEAN and how teacher education should be developed and trained, and that could be developed into the exchange programs in ASEAN as well, okay? So let's say like if we are going to move forward to the future teaching competency in ASEAN, in your views, at the moment, in your views, what are some kind of key issues or key challenges that teachers in ASEAN are still lacking behind, or that we really need to address in terms of the competencies of the future?
I think language, right?
Yeah.
If we want to teach in different countries, we have a common language. I suppose it's English.
You mean common language should be English, or?
No, I mean, I suppose English, yeah.
And another thing is that it is resist to change. Yeah, some of the teachers resist to change. They don't want to see the changing, because changing makes them very difficult to adapt, especially the old generation, something like that. So they still keep their mind that that generation, that knowledge is enough, something like that. So for in Cambodia, I have very difficult that we want to transform, okay, the spoon-feed knowledge teaching to the, to the, how can I say that, the facilitate. Teacher play the role of facilitator, and the teacher play the role as the spoon-feed knowledge. So we are really difficult to change that attitude, and we try to import a lot of methodology of teaching, but they still resist to change. So we should find a way to motivate them as well.
I think that problem also happens in Thailand. Like in our context, I mean, teachers there, but I think it's getting better, at the beginning, because it's something that could be like, I think it's natural that people would resist to change, especially something that they are not familiar with. But like over time, like in Thailand, because we have been under education reform for over 2 decades, okay, and at the beginning it was very, very difficult, okay, but now like over time it's getting better, but because of the political turbulence in Thailand, and that's why some teachers there, a lot of teachers, they kind of getting very tired of change, because there are so many changes that they have to cope with, okay. How about in other countries, like what are the strategies, any concern?
Well, ASEAN awareness. I think it should be a basic course in teacher education, ASEAN history and culture, so that the future teachers that we graduate already have that sensitivity to the different cultures in ASEAN. So perhaps apart from language, for instance, we should start offering courses in Thai, or in learning Thai language or Cambodian language, or those things we need to start integrating into the teacher education program.
When I mentioned language just now, maybe I elaborate further. For example, if we want to send our students to a country to teach, right? The teacher should be, so what's the medium of instruction in your country? So if it is in Thai, my students Thai, so we can exchange. So if you want to come to my country to teach, you must be able to speak English, because that's the medium of language teaching English.
Yeah, that's why nowadays in Thailand, the government has encouraged a lot of schools to develop an English programs, you know, like we call like intensive English programs that like science, math, English, social studies to be taught in English. Yeah. And that's why we can have a lot of like teachers in ASEAN coming in to teach. And we have offered quite a lot of like some of the neighboring countries' languages as well. But still, because like I think it's about the awareness, you know, awareness of the importance of learning about our neighbors' languages. You know, second language should not only be the English, but we need to learn more about like language of our neighbor countries in ASEAN as well. Anyone else from Vietnam?
I agree with that. I think the difficult is the language, not only English, but like when you like Philippines, more people from Philippines come to Vietnam to speak English, but they just speak English, they don't understand Vietnam. It's just difficult for them. And second one is about culture and view. Yeah, it's a different view. It's difficult to understand the students. Yeah, when you for example, when Philippines come to my country to teach English, they not really understand their culture, their view. So it's difficult to understand students. That I think that in Vietnam now, in the general education for math and science, we have more classes teach in English. So it's okay, but I think it's about culture and view to understand students. That is important. Yeah.
Perhaps that's the reason why we have to start really integrating some sort of an Erasmus Mundus for ASEAN, where our students in the teacher education program can spend at least a month in another university learning the culture. You know, so we need to find ways, while the level of development is uneven in ASEAN, but when we start saying money should not be a problem, resources should not be a problem, then perhaps the innovative mind will set in, you know. So we should do it.
Okay, so you want to say something? Okay, in the back here.
Thank you. Mohammed Tanzim from National Institute of Education from Cambodia. To me, I think Philippines may take advance in teacher education. I just want to know whether you integrate each country curriculum into your teacher education or not. Because if I'm not wrong, in Thailand also there are many Philippines who teach. In my country, Cambodia, if you think about international school, most of the teachers from Philippines. I think maybe you already integrate about the multicultural education in your curriculum. If that, could you share with us how to integrate the multicultural education into teacher education in order to make us to be the teacher at Philippines also? Thank you.
We actually have ASEAN studies as part of the general education program, not only of those studying to become teachers, but also of all students. It's part of the new curriculum of the Commission on Higher Education. They can actually enroll in ASEAN studies as a general education course. And for teacher education, we have other additional courses for teacher education. So I think just now I'm thinking perhaps we should also include in professional education some kind of a comparative education course in ASEAN comparative education course. That's a thought I have now. But one way to kind of raise the awareness, ASEAN awareness of our would-be teachers, put it in the general education course. That's what we did in the Philippines. Plus, we have this advantage of the English language is an advantage. We have to recognize that even if we learned it from the colonizers, we kind of embraced it.
Okay, in the back, please.
Good morning. Thank you so much for your thought and view. My name is Pong. I come from Kasetsai University. I would like to ask each panelist what have we done and achieved so far in terms of integrating the knowledge of and awareness of ASEAN and also some core teaching competencies in our teaching preparation program. Maybe you answer from what you have done in your own institution or other institutions in your countries. For example, English or any third language or ASEAN language or multicultural education or culturally responsive instruction and things like that. Thank you.
Yeah, in fact, that's the same question that I was having in mind as well that I would like to ask.
Okay, in Cambodia, actually we introduce the 1 hour per week in our curriculum, and we mean that the general education. So general education, we learn everything about the culture in each country, something like that. Yeah, and Asian as well. And also we have the common course for English language. Because English language, we understand that English plays a very important role in order to communicate the people in Asia. So that's why we introduce English as well in our curriculum. So this is the 2 points that I want to answer your question.
I can sing the ASEAN hymn. We sing it every Monday, along with during our flag raising. So our students can sing the ASEAN hymn. And then on a Monday, they can wear any ASEAN dress. You know, we celebrate. So apart from a curricular approach, where you have courses such as ASEAN studies, also they have a language requirement. We are partial to, well, there's the social science class. They are partial to Bahasa. So we're learning Bahasa. We also use co-curricular activities. We celebrate the ASEAN month every August. So we also have the ASEAN cuisine activities. Very, very nice. And then we have intensified our exchange programs. So we really send our students, in fact, they now can find by themselves activities in ASEAN universities that they really apply. They don't have to go through the university officially. They themselves apply directly. So everywhere is ASEAN, you know. So it really helps. You know, even the chair of the Commission on Higher Education, she was so surprised when she overheard our students singing the ASEAN song. You really know that? Yes, they said. So, you know, these rituals, these symbols, they are important in really bringing home the point that we really are one identity, which is ASEAN.
Okay. In terms of languages, at our university, at NIE itself, we do not offer the different languages, but the degree students have the liberty to take languages from the main university, that's Nanyang Technological University. Unfortunately, they go for Korean and Japanese languages because no TV, Korean fans, so they tend to go for that instead. And talking about multiculturalism, we do have a course in multiculturalism. Because in Singapore, we have many cultures, many languages, right? And it is very important to gel us together. So as a result, at the moment,
our concern is still trying to have harmony among the different racial groups. So therefore, ASEAN is out of our radar at the moment, at this point in time. And when the Philippines shared about having it in the curriculum, I did think of sharing it with my team, but I have a feeling that it will be turned down because I think the emphasis is still within Singapore, especially now with terrorism, right? I think it is very important to gel the 4 races first. Okay? And the only time when we think very much about ASEAN is during the SEA Games, when we support and when we help in the organization and etc. etc. Okay, and talk about the competencies. How do we implement the competencies? Something like that, right? It is for us is through the practicum. When the students go out to do their practicum, we have the checklist, or not exactly the checklist, but the performance competency performance form, and that's when we gauge them according to the competency. Thanks.
In Vietnam, English is compulsory in my country for general school. About multiculturalism, students usually explore in literature, history, geography, especially in civilization subject. We teach from 1st grade to 12th grade. In high school, depend on that field, they will study more about that. Yeah, that's in Vietnam.
Well, it seems to me that, okay, question in the back over here, and then we'll be going to, okay, the lady over there.
Good morning, my name is from National Institute of Education, Cambodia. So my point of view is that I think cross-cultural understanding is not the barriers to teacher mobility in ASEAN countries. So actually so far the ASEAN countries have adopted English as a working language for the 10 countries. So that's why in order to change our cultures, in order to change our teachers in the other country, teachers can go to work in the other countries in the region. So we can set the standard for English. Yeah. For example, we ask them to sit for IELTS test or TOEFL test or whatever, so that each country have the same language proficiency standard for our teachers, and then our teacher can be mobile around the 10 countries in the region. Okay, so this is my idea.
That's what we do when applicants to be a special needs teacher, when they want to come to Singapore to teach, right? I was once responsible in sieving out to see whether they qualify or not. And for English standard, we look at IELTS.
IELTS. Okay. Okay, there are 2 over here. Microphone, please.
Hello, my name is Dr. Satya from Kasetsart University. I would like to support the ticket from Vietnam, Singapore, and everyone about the challenge. English for sure is a challenge for the ASEAN teacher, and the culture is the most challenging for me, because I think that in the future ASEAN teachers not only need to learn about the culture, but they have to understand. That is the part, the hardest part, more than like learning. Like you need to understand how the people different and accept that. So that is my idea. Like in the future, if we can add some knowledge like ASEAN teacher identity into the framework, like they know they are an ASEAN teacher, not only like Thai teacher, Philippines teacher, or Cambodia. Okay, hello, only the Cambodia teacher, so they know that what they are doing, what they are expected to do, what they have to be trained. to teach in the future. So I think this is one area that we can focus on. We can start developing from the program that you give. So you can start from the program that you give it to us, like the link program, exchange program, and also from the educational technology. So we can develop the online courses that all the ASEAN students can study together, because you know that if we send the student to your country, it's about the money. Not every student can cover this money. So because I'm from the educational technology department, I think about the students who have a low income or lower middle class, how can they get this opportunity? So technology is the answer. So maybe in the future, we can discuss in the next conference or next meeting.
Seems like we have someone want to talk with us.
Yeah, want to talk. So maybe in the future, we can start talking about the online platform, online courses that every ASEAN teacher can share or learn something together. Yeah, that is the thing.
Before we go back to the, before we go to the lady in the back, we yeah, Professor.
We're Senaries working in Norman University. So we started opening up for students and mobility. And I think we also started at this point now by just the research group collaboration. And now we have graduate students who are who wanted also to participate in colloquia. Malaysia, UPSI is inviting graduate students to join them in their colloquia. But we have particular students who wanted also to look into the policies, educational policies, and also curricula of ASTEN. These are PhD students, and I hope the universities, the teacher education institutions in ASEAN will open also their universities to these types of students. And this is by way of osmosis we can get the culture. And I'd like to underscore what Wasati was saying about online, because we also are designing in visiting lecturers program, online faculty members as well. We can invite them to do lecture during when we have our flexible learning activities and so on. So we can move on and on. And there's another area which is also very good, immersion in issues, because there's a third function of the university, the extension program. So maybe we can open that up also to students who are willing to help those who are, like in the Philippines, who are always caught up with different disasters. So I remember there is one teacher who went to Marawi. It just delivered the letters coming from the students, and let the Marawi students read the messages of the students. Very simple, but yeah, I think it would have a very high impact on those who are busy. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Would be lady in the back. Microphone, please. Okay, before we go to the lady.
Thank you very much for your discussion. My name is Chatri from Kasetsang University. Let me check my understanding. We are talking about the common goals of ASEAN teacher preparation, and also the ultimate goal of, no, not ultimate goal, but how can we develop our teacher preparation program in ASEAN country. And what I know is we are talking about the goals in terms of help our students to understand English, and we going to use like mobility program to exchange the student or student teacher from one country to another country. And I totally agree with that idea. But I think we have to think about the goals of ASEAN community. We are one part of ASEAN community. I mean, in terms of ASEAN country. So what are the goals? And I think one goal is we would, as we know that we are all, most of us are developing countries, and we have to think about our students. And right now, students are in the globalization world. So I think 21st century skills is very important, and problem solving skill is very important. How can we prepare our student teachers and field service teachers to have the strategy or thinking to help our students in our country? So I think not just only language, not just only cultural understanding, but I think the ability to help our students, teaching strategy or their identity. So we have to find out ASEAN identity, ASEAN teacher identity to move our ASEAN community towards. I think things like European Union and we will be the ones of one part of the world to move. So we have to work together. So that's my comment. Okay, that's all. Thank you very much.
Okay, would be lady in the back over there.
Hello, my name is Mani Rapimo from Kasetsart University. I just want to share my own experiences. Well, when we are talking about cross-cultural, multicultural competency, I just want to share that in Kasetsart University, we started a course called Language and Culture for teachers, and I like it very much because I'm teaching it. Well, it started 2 years ago when the Teacher Council of Thailand announced the new standards for Thai teachers. Now we have 11 standards. And then one of the new standards coming out of that announcement is that all teachers, regardless of the subject matters they teach, they have to know language and culture. And what I'm teaching in that course is that, well, we cannot, if we want to make, to create understanding among different cultures, we cannot just give them the facts, just the knowledge and facts about cultures. We need to go further than that to make it, to create intercultural understanding. And what I did in the class was about, well, there are a lot of activities I did in class, but the aim is that, well, the ASEAN community would be one of my aims to achieve the mutual understanding. Like, I know that a lot of my students still don't understand the idea of trying to live together in peace, like living together peacefully. That's one of the goals for that course. And I know they have a lot of stereotypes, stereotypical views or bias against, our neighboring countries. We have to admit that. Well, that's what we are trying to do, and to create some sort of awareness, just what the panelists said, the awareness and sensitivity towards other cultures. So when we talk about language and culture, so it cannot be just about facts and knowledge of those cultures. Like I know, because right now in school, my daughter is in 3rd grade. She learns all about ASEAN countries as well, but she needs to memorize like what kind of flags, each country has, or national anthems, food and costumes. So just not those kind of things that would lead us to some real understanding. So it got to be something much deeper than that. That's what I want to share.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think that is a very key issue because, as I have heard from, what you have mentioned here about what each country is doing about promoting ASEAN, is more likely still at the ritual and the knowledge about each country. But we need to go beyond that. We need to go beyond just simple fact and knowledge about each country, but we need to create awareness and understanding about each other as a whole, and also like skills like the language. Language could help us to overcome the barrier of not understanding each other. And I think like the floor has given us a lot of suggestions, like what we could be doing in order to promote the awareness, understanding, and also the languages. Like we need to develop some kind of exchange program. And you mentioned about like we should have ASEAN comparative education course. And I think it could be very interesting as well, because rather than like just have a course about ASEAN, but we need some kind of comparative perspective in order to understand that each country in ASEAN, we also have like differences that we can coexist through understanding. And also like a course on multiculturalism. I'm not sure whether, I mean, in your country you have teaching, qualification framework, right? In your qualification framework, do you have any like a course on like ASEAN, not like the content about ASEAN, but anything about the promotion of ASEAN community in the qualification framework? No? No? Do we have anything of that in Thailand, in Thai qualification framework? Dr. Chandri, could you respond to that? Do we have any, like, in our qualification framework, do we have anything about, like, ASEAN?
You mean the teacher competence standard?
No, qualification, yeah. Yeah, teaching qualification framework.
We have one standard talking about language and culture, but I don't think we focus on multicultural something in ASEAN, but it's about Thai. Yes.
Oh, it's about Thai.
Yes.
Okay.
Thai and English and maybe other languages is just, I think just only English and Thai. Yes.
So in your view, do you think like in the qualification framework, should there be anything to address about the ASEAN in your education qualification framework? Do you think, should that be appropriate or no? No? Yeah, because each country is different, right? But what would be the strategies that we could go beyond just ritual and knowledge about ASEAN?
I think one that's very effective, because I was involved in the SEA Games as well. When we organize SEA Games or anything that has to do with SEA Games, either the delegates coming in, we mobilize volunteers in our country, and hundreds and hundreds of people volunteer. And that's when we really know the culture of when we are attached to each country. We really get to know the people and the culture and so on. And in fact, when I talk to the volunteers, we all share, they really learned a lot and benefited a lot. That's one reason.
In my previous life, I was involved in a lot of human rights, peace, and development issues in the region. Believe it or not, the non-government organizations and the civil society sector in the different countries in ASEAN, they have well-developed network. And I think it's something that the teacher education sector may want to pursue as well, that we need to also include other sectors in the teacher education sector. We have to link with the other sectors, such as the civil society sector, because the CSOs, the NGOs, they have direct link to the people on the ground. So if beyond rituals, we really need a network that specifically addresses daily life issues about daily lives of people, and by strengthening or expanding our reach to include this sector, then that's one strategy we can have.
So you're suggesting that we need to engage like broader sectors into like the promotion of ASEAN community, right, in education. Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, in my country, Yeah. In my country, we are in the summer. We usually have a short course. Short courses for teacher. For multicultural lesson for all ASEAN for teacher. From that they put in lesson. It have a relation with the culture, Asian culture. So in the summer we usually have short courses for teacher. And for students, now in higher education, actually in our university, we usually have a topic talk about that. So I think my student and teacher understand quite properly. Yeah.
Actually, I support the idea of Dr. Promenade that would like to integrate how can I say, ASEAN awareness into the qualification framework of teacher education. And this is very important if we want to improve the knowledge about ASEAN. So in the curriculum or qualification framework, especially in terms of teacher education qualification framework. Because maybe we cannot do at other side, we can do at least at teacher education qualification or education framework. We can include that one into that. So when teachers know about the ASEAN very well, so they will teach the student and the student will understand very well as well. So this is a very good strategy. That
no, in fact, it's not my strategy because in fact, like I have heard like there are some discussion about like attempts to introduce ASEAN teaching qualification framework. I don't know if you have heard of that. Yes, but I think like it did not succeed because I don't think I have seen it come out. I saw it only the teaching competency framework, but there was an attempt, right? If I'm not mistaken, of the Ojina. Have you heard of that? ASEAN teaching qualification framework.
Yes. There was an attempt, yeah. Even senior also attempted.
Yes, but it did not succeed. Yeah, I think one of the major reasons is that like what we have been exploring here, that you know, rather than implementing something that is too rigid, you know, we should let it flow naturally through human interactions.
ASEAN, we want to do that with the ministries of education.
Yes, I think
ASEAN to do that with the ministries of education.
Okay, but it did not come out.
Not yet.
Not yet. Is it still under discussion of doing that?
I understand that there is a separate committee of ASEAN working on that with ASEAN, which is ASEAN qualifications.
Oh, ASEAN, okay. Okay. Well, so I think like in your opinions, like if we are going to overcome the challenges like what we have mentioned about the English and also like the cultural awareness, you know, just that we need to go beyond knowledge. What would be the roles of ASTEN in your views? And that would open to the floor as well. What, in your views, what could be the roles of ASTEN in order to promote, you know, like the key issues of teacher education in ASEAN, just like what we have mentioned about like the English skills and also like the cultural awareness and understanding the multiculturalism. You know, what would be some of your suggestions that you would like to give to ASTEN? Okay.
I've been listening to the group. I have been hesitating to speak, but on this point, I'd like to say that considering that ASTEN is the premier organization for the top universities in teacher education, we do have a role to play for the others within our own countries. The universities that are with ASTEN have been identified to be the best, and for some recommended by their respective ministries. So that in terms of competencies, if we speak of common competencies defined by CINO, we need to embrace them. And the ministries of education have a role on this. However, for ASTEN, we need to identify what distinct competencies will define the kind of future teachers we would have, the educational leaders that we would want to have in the master's and doctorate programs. And maybe in the strategic planning workshop that we would have as proposed here on the floor, those things will have to be looked at to define the distinct competencies that we should have for the different types of students in our universities, given the catalytic role that the ASTEN members have for our own countries and in terms of defining the future, as mentioned by Dr. Ho. I've placed some notes here so that we shift to my second page. ASTEN has also a very unique opportunity, as I said, in terms of producing the leaders for the future. And I realized that maybe in the ASTEN activities that we would have, we should ask our faculty members in the different disciplines to meet as an ASTEN organization, like mathematics group, those in physics, those in environmental science, so that they can define what we should need in the kind of program that we will have for BS, for Masters, and for PhD. In the area of research, there has to be an agreement between them because ASEAN integration cannot happen if people do not speak to each other. We speak in a generic way on the level of coordinative role for our respective institutions. But in the area of discipline, people in the same field can speak to each other. What else do I wish to say? Well, I'd like to stop at that point. I hope that there will be other good issues that will come up for discussion. Thank you.
Okay, so I think like Dr. Ojena has focused on that we need to identify or define the key competencies needed for future ASEAN teachers, even though there are some kind of teaching competency frameworks developed by CINO, but the role of ASEAN is that we can address the missing teaching competencies that are required for the future of ASEAN teachers. Yes, that can be the model for others as well. And I think Dr. Ojena has mentioned about there are various kind of strategies developed through the ASTEN network, like a research network and also exchange program as well. Like trying to connect people and working together, you know, as some kind of like an ASTEN can play the role of facilitators, that people can work together and get to know each other. Is there any suggestions or comments from the floor that would like to give to ASTEN? Because like ASTEN is the member of 10 member countries, right? We have 10 member countries, and we try to aim toward like working together in order to improve the quality of teacher education in ASEAN. And this is what the representative of each country thinking about that. We would like to hear more from the floor on your views about what you would like ASTEN to play more roles in terms of promoting teacher education in ASEAN. Okay, I got some suggestions from the floor on using ICT. So you think like maybe people from here, do you think would that be possible if we develop some kind of like ICT course that could develop like teacher education in ASEAN?
I think it's a good idea, but again, the bottom line is the language. If you put in the course and everything and you write it in English, will everybody be able to comprehend? See, and if they do comprehend, but to what level? So that can also be a challenge.
Is there any, okay, in the back?
Again, I am not sure whether what I am going about to say is already in your mind. I think we are an important professional body. I think why not let our voice get our voice heard? Why not we have like position statement, and maybe like we support for the core teaching ASEAN teaching competency, and we like send that message to the professional bodies in your country, like teacher council, who is authorized to satisfy the teaching license, or to those who have power in their hand. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because we are, the representative and the leaders in teacher education from your own country.
Okay, so Dr. Poprapan suggesting that we need to push forward to the authorities in terms of like how the promotion of teacher education in ASEAN can be promoted, like rather than like just working as a group, but we need to reach out to the higher authority. So we would like to comment upon that, right?
Well, tomorrow there is going to be a workshop to be handled by Indonesia on ASEAN ASEAN Teacher Reference ASEAN Reference Framework for Teacher Education. As to advocacy and lobby, we will come to that. That's why I suggested that there has to be some kind of a strategic planning for ASTEN. It's about time to review the 3-year program and perhaps be more bold in approaching this work. ASTEN, by the way, to me is beyond teaching competency in ASEAN. I think it is more than that. The goal is really to improve the quality of teacher education in the region. Whether it is via setting the teaching competency standard, we do not know if it is the only way. I think there are many paths. There are many ways to skill there are many paths towards that goal. And advocacy definitely is an essential, should be an essential component of the program of ASTEN. But my suggestion is for each member university to expand its reach within their respective country. In the case of the Philippines, we have ASTEN Philippines and we have 36 members. These are the centers, these are considered centers of excellence in the Philippines. And we, in PNU, we want to influence them to embed in their curriculum an ASEAN perspective in the way they produce or develop the teachers. That's a suggestion to member universities, because sometimes with this kind of work, you get tired at some point. But if you have many institutions and we generate so much energy for this cause, then you get regenerated. So it doesn't have to be you alone. You are with many others who are one in spirit towards this cause of really improving teacher education in ASEAN. So it should be a commitment by each member university, except perhaps for Singapore, it's the only university there in teacher education. But for the rest, we can really expand our reach by involving others into this cause.
Okay, I want to add up a little bit regarding to Cambodia. So now we are under the process of reform. And in the reform, we look at the competency framework of ASEAN, and also we look at the competency framework of our own country as well. And the main focus is that the competency of teacher. So my Minister of Education, he stressed that in order to improve the quality of education, the first thing they have to improve the quality of teacher and the quality of school principal. And now they start to train pre-service for school principal, and also try to start to reform the formula of training of teacher from pre-primary until high school level. So previously just only 12 plus 2, but now we changed the institution to 12 plus 4 by 2018, not 2028. And in terms of teacher, in order to improve the quality of teacher, the first thing that my minister stressed on is that the recruitment. We will find a way how to motivate the good student to become a teacher. This is the first strategy. And then train them, well trained. And in order to well train, we have to look at the competency framework of region, and also as well as the competency framework of our own countries. And then deploy them, meaning place them on the right place and on the right job, on the right subject. And the fourth one is that to retain. So retain the good teacher is very important. So because previously, truly speaking, Cambodia, the good and the teacher, they want to move, they want to change the job, they don't want to be a teacher. So now we try to find a way in order to retain them to become job provision. So how can we do that? We establish the career pathway. So teacher have to pass through the career pathway, and from one level to the other level, we will provide a certified incentive. Incentive means that the salary scale is based on the career pathway. So this is the strategy that we are setting recently. And from 2018, we will implement that one.
Okay, I think what we have discussed today, I think gives us some. I think we have a very vibrant discussion, especially on like whether or not we really need a common standard or teaching competency standard for ASEAN. And I think that that question is still unanswered, because we have some kind of like strong debate about that, whether it is necessary, to what extent it is needed. But I think we have come up to the conclusion that what is needed is that we need to identify the key challenges and key issues that ASEAN teachers' education should have. For example, like English, okay? Because without English skills, in order for us to understand, or let's say having an online courses, that would be a major barrier, okay? If you don't have, how can I say, a common medium that we can understand each other. And also we need to address about how can we move beyond this knowledge about ASEAN, but we need to go for the awareness and recognition of differences in this region. But how can we live together, recognizing the differences within the unity? It's a challenge, but I believe that we can accomplish that, because the accomplishment is not the destination, but it's the journey. And I think we, as the whole region, as ASEAN community, we have a long journey to go, but without the first step, our journey could not begin. So I think the headmark today as the first step of our journey, that we would work together in order to accomplish our goal as ASEAN integration. Okay. So I think, actually I saw someone raise hand over there in the back.
Yes, but it seems to be like you are already close the section.
Okay. But I don't want to cut you off. I mean, if you have a very important thing that you want to raise. Is there a question or comment?
It's just a thought. It's just a thought, I guess. Good morning. My name is Jirowan Getsin from Kesesan University. It is very nice to hear all of your thoughts about the qualification framework for ASEAN. But from my point of view, the problem in our country is not about what we written in the document. What we already have in Thailand is very good, very nice, but the problem is the practice. We cannot link between what we have in our dream and what the teacher in practice have to do. So I think the ASTEN role is to share the best practice, what and how you do in your country that can bridge this gap. Probably we start from Philippines and Singapore and Vietnam, who already have in high school, especially in science and mathematics, because we are in science education. So we already know that the quality of education in each country in ASEAN, in general, is quite low in terms of the international level. So what we can learn from that, I think we can learn and share from other countries in ASEAN community about how you educate or prepare your future teacher to have been a good teacher. I think to be a good teacher starts with the heart of the teacher inside themselves. It's not only about the language. It's not only about the culture, but it's about the self, the identity to become a teacher. So I hope to learn and share with other countries in ASEAN, and I think this is the point that we can do together to reach our region to be in the spotlight of the world. So this is what I think. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And I think it's very important because, and I think that is a very key role of ASTEN as well, you know, that ASTEN is also a network of learning of our member institutes that we will share about good practices. And we try to move forward, but just like Dr. Felicia mentioned that we cannot just have only 10 member institutes network. We need to reach out, you know, the more network that we have, the better and the more efficient that we can move forward the quality of teacher education in ASEAN. Okay, I think we have come to the ending part of our session here, so I would give the microphone back to the MC. Please join me to give a big round of applause to our discussants or panelists here.
Thank you very much. Yes, I have a couple of announcements here before we take a short break. Okay? The first one is please complete the evaluation form and return it in the table outside of the meeting room. And the second one is for your lunch. We're going to provide a lunch box at the third floor in room 302, that floor for lunch box. And now we're going to have a short break because before we have the closing ceremony, we're going to have a show and want to announce that we will, for your safety, we for the front row supposed to move back a little bit because it's going to be some show that use some equipment that to be your safe. So please move backward a little bit. So we will have no one sit in the front row. Please, 5 minutes short break and we will come back.
อาจารย์ครับ
หมุนจนขี้แตกแล้ว
อะไรแตกนะ
หมุนกล้องจนขี้แตกแล้วหมุนกล้องจนเวียนหัวแล้วเลยคนสวิตก็เวียนหัวฟีดไปฟีดมา
โอ้ถ้ามีสัก2 ตัวก็ดีนะ
ใช่มันจะเวิร์กมากเลยมันก็
อันนี้หมุนไปหมุนมางงอีกกล้องหนึ่งก็คือตั้งไว้ฝั่งนู้นเลยหมุนมา
ไม่ง่ายคนคุมมีกี่คนมีกล้อง2 ตัวแต่มีคนคุมวิ่งกันกี่คนคนคุมคนเดียวแล้วก็กล้องนี้ก็2 กล้องคุมเดียวกันได้
Hello again. For your information, your lunchbox, you can pick them up at room 302 on the 3rd floor, and then we'll go downstairs for those who want to join the excursion. We'll go to downstairs, the first floor, to wait for the bus. The bus will take you to have the excursion. Please bring all your belongings with you. Don't leave anything here in this room, because we will close this room up, and then you will have your stuff with you, your belongings with you. If you want to take them with you along excursion, please do so. And the bus will take you back to your KU home about 4 o'clock. All right?
Because tomorrow we have a meeting, right?
Tomorrow, yes.
Yeah, tomorrow have a workshop. Yeah, so one whole day.
And this afternoon, join
Discussion. Yeah.
our former dean will be you guys.
Okay.
Dr.
Sultan Kai. Okay.
Respect him.
Yeah. I know him clearly. Because we met in the conference, in the meeting.
We have a lunch on the
Hello
bus.
everyone. So
Okay.
I would like to invite
but we already okay.
is outside of this room, coming in is as you notice that we have like a noise that interrupt us sometimes. I would like to tell you that because there are some students who have the activities and they use the microphone and it comes to the same frequency, and sometimes the noise comes into this room. I know that this interrupts and bother us sometimes. And now I would like to bring you to the closing ceremony. We're going to have the Thai cultural show, and I'm pleased that we're going to have Dr. Anchela Saochulam to help me explain and tell you about Thai cultural shows. Please.
Sawadika. Glad to know that all we have done finished in the right way with pleasure. So we would like to explain before showing about what does it mean. And this is not only Thai traditional folk dance or folklore, but also this is like implementation in nation and collective buildings cases in Thailand. King Ramanand stated that sport is counted as a very important educational tool that because it helps improve a child mental toughness, bravery, sportsmanship, and promote physical wellness. And also, is a contributing factor to achieve high performance on both mentally and physically. Consequently, a child will grow, be a good citizen of the nation, which is an ultimate aspiration. What is so unique about Thai sports? Most of you know about Muay Thai, but some person doesn't know about Krabi Kabong. It's the same. Different, which weapon refer as a local wisdom that's combined with Thai traditional, which in turn give a unique character building. Starting from the young age, children would be learning about respect, moral values, kindness, politeness, and sense of pride to be Thai along with physical education. The Thai style is known to be tough but not rough, meek but not weak. You see that since you are here. Character building is not only sport, not only academic, but also meditation. And what is Krabi Kabong? And why it is so significant to Thai history? Krabi Kabong might have been practiced in conjunction with Muay Boran. Defend and protect oneself in times of dangers. Add in moral principle and ethics building, such as have the courage to do the right things, be patient with others, respect others, and believe in oneself. Develop a sense of pride to be the owner of distinctive sports that protected and kept Thailand free from enemies and invaders. Conserve the traditions of Thai cultures, improve and individual manners, knowledge, spiritual values, enhance body strength. Long time ago in ancient time, boys studied in temple, but girls could not. But right now, what is girl or women's role? See, being look after family,
sacrifice her life for country. Not only her, but also women heroes who protected our country. So, fully developed children in 21st century education must emphasize on improving character building, is moral standard, sense of pride to be Thai, polite, calm, take care of parents, respect for elders, strong but gentle, critical thinking skill, creativities, technological knowledge. See, such a student and be able to work with us peacefully. From the past to the present, the support strategies under the motto, support build people, people build nation. And the teaching and learning philosophy of sports in Thailand remains unchanged. Sawadee. So right now, start with Muay Thai.
Please welcome our actors.
sauce fighting with one hand sauce we call krabi or krabi.
ใสจุดเฟรมเลยว่ะน้อง2 คนฮะจุดเฟรมสุดแล้วอ่ะไม่ติดน้องผู้หญิงบอกน้องผู้หญิงที่อยู่ข้างบนสายหลุดเฟรมเฟรม
show the boxing เดี๋ยวนิสิตมาแล้วก็ยืนรอแป๊บนึงก่อนนะครับครับขอกระบี่กระบองนางสาววริศราสุขขำเจอเลยครับนายนัทมาศรินสมุทรนะครับแล้วก็ลองวิพอนนะครับนายพัชระเพชรเรืองนะครับนายสุรศักดิ์บุญนะครับ two hand song นายจุฑาวัยนะครับวงสมศรีนายจิราชัยวิริยะวงศ์ยกมือขึ้นสูงครับอันนั้นไม่ใช่เสียงผมนะแต่สำหรับผม Okay, so when you're ready, go ahead. อันนักเรียนนิสิตนั่งครับเชิญนั่งแล้วก็รับของคือนิสิตนั่งอยู่ก่อนนะครับนิสิตหันหลังแต่เดี๋ยวถ่ายแป๊บนึงเดี๋ยวหันหน้ากลับมาด้านนี้ได้ไหมหันหน้ามาด้านนี้แล้วก็นั่งเราถ่ายรูปสักนิดนึงยิ้มด้วยครับยิ้มเราครับผม smile okay so I would like ขอบคุณมากนะครับนิสิตครับผม I would like to talk a little bit about our students. It's not only students, you know, like a boxing team. They are professional. They really like fight on the stage. And actually, we have the class during the summer, the boxing class, and we have the international student come to learn Thai boxing with us as well. And two more. Oh. Okay, so two more gifts. I would like to invite our dean to provide the gift to the instructor and trainer and the president of ASTEN to นิสิตเชิญรางวัลให้อาจารย์ให้คณะบดีThe trainer, please. She's a senior trainer of this show. If you see the long weapon show, it's very rare show. Not many people practice that. And Dr. Achara as well.
One, two, three.
And please stay there a little bit, yes. All students, please, yeah. Stand behind the row. Saya mau foto ini dari dan jawab nanya.
อ๋อได้ค่ะตรงนี้ได้ค่ะ
เพิ่มจำนวนห้องเราไม่มีไวน์ไม่ได้เป็น
ชัดจากวิดีโอได้ไหมไม่รู้นี่คือซูมเอาสุดแล้วนะซูมขาออกไปไม่ให้เกินเสาได้ไหมอ่ะโค้ชอัพขอยาววนเลยก็เลยซูมบ้างนี่ซูมเป็นบางช็อตที่ใช่ไหมกูก็เล็งอยู่เข้าวิดีโอนะมึง
Okay, so and next I would like to make this ceremony complete. I would like to invite our Dean, Dr. Pattamawadi Lemongkon, to give a closing speech. Okay, please welcome Dr. Pattamawadi.
Thai proverb said that all good things must come to the end. Dear Miss President of ASTEN, Dr. John Ho, all participants, on behalf of the Dean of Faculty of Education, Kasetsart University, I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you to the closing ceremony for ASTEN International Conference 2017. During the past few days, we already have learned and shared valuable ideas about teacher education in ASEAN community, including our guest speakers, Professor Dr. John Ho and former Prime Minister Dr. Apisit Vechachiwa. I am sure that all information and knowledge that we gain from the conference will benefit not only to your country but for our ASEAN as well. I would like to take this opportunity to express my sincere thanks to our KU faculties, especially Dr. Udongrat Punsilo, my Deputy Dean in Foreign Affairs, and her team, and also our KU faculties and ASEAN members for making the conference to be so successful. This is valuable opportunity that really makes ASEAN teacher education move into the next step. I am sure that Faculty of Education, Kasetsart University will continue participating with all activities of ASTEN and also develop new collaboration with ASTEN members in the future. Thank you very much for all of you to be here and hope you enjoy the excursion in the afternoon. I hope to see you again and wish you to fly back home safely. Goodbye.
So and now to make the movement of the ASTEN go on, so we will have this is like a small ritual, like giving the flag to the next country who will hold the next meeting of ASTEN. So student please. And Dr. Jessie will be the representative of next meeting, representative from Singapore. Thank you.
Next สิงคโปร์วะสิงคโปร์เฮ้ยอยากไปอ่ะ
Yes, please. And I would like to invite Dr. Jessie to say something.
Yes, I must say something. Okay. On behalf of all the participants of this conference and ASTEN members, we would like to thank KU faculty members, helpers, photographers, technicians, everybody for making this international conference a success. Singapore will try our very best to make you all feel very warm welcome. The high hospitality is something which Singapore doesn't have, but we will try our very best. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And I think it's now are we going to have the whole group pictures all together one more time? Everyone together. Yes, please. That you can move up here and we can take a big picture with everyone in this room. When you're moving up here, I would like to repeat the announcement again. The lunch box will provide at the third floor in room 302. And after you get the lunch box, anyone who wants to join the excursion, please go down to the first floor and the bus will be waiting for you over there. Yes, please.